I'd like to call this meeting to order. Due to the state of emergency declared by the governments of the state of New Jersey and the United States regarding COVID-19, this meeting is being held via video conference in order for the Board of Education to conduct its business. This board meeting is being streamed live via YouTube on the district website at www.ebnet.org. In addition, members of the public who wish to provide comment at this meeting may do so through Zoom, a remote video conferencing system. Free direct access is available by entering the URL you see on the screen into the web browser of your computer or mobile device and entering the meeting and ID and password also on the screen now. Upon joining the meeting, your participation will automatically be muted to ensure that there is no disruption to the business being conducted by the Board of Education. Individuals are welcome to provide comment during the good of the cause of the public portion of the meeting. The board will hear public comment through Zoom. In order to be recognized, select the chat feature in Zoom, then enter and send your name to the meeting host. You will be recognized to speak when your name is called. Individuals will be invited to speak in the order in which we have received your request. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Mrs. Chu. Mr. Sismar. Mr. Sismar? Present. And as a reminder, folks, you need to unmute yourselves when we are calling your names and when you need to speak. Mrs. Guas.
This is not working, Bernie.
Mrs. Guas.
Bernie, people can't unmute themselves. If
Yes,
you could
they have the capacity to do that.
I'm here, Susanna Chu.
Noted. I see you on screen, Mrs. Guas.
Here.
Thank you. Mr. Hahn.
Here.
Mrs. Lax.
Here.
Mrs. Reese.
Here.
Mr. Simmons.
Here.
Mr. Winston. Mr. Winston?
Here. It wouldn't unmute, Bernie.
Very good. Mrs. Becker.
Here. Before I ask everyone, we have a quorum, to please rise. I want to ask that after we rise to salute the flag, we have a moment of silence in memoriam for Megan La Fergola. A moment of silence will be observed in memory of Megan, who passed away on April 14th, 2020, after a long illness, fought with courage. After student teaching in the English department of East Brunswick High School, Megan was hired in September 2017 as a special education English teacher at Churchill Junior High School. She was dedicated to her students and will be missed. Our thoughts and heartfelt sympathies are with her loved ones. So again, after we rise and salute the flag, please stay standing for a moment of silence. Rise and salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag, the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Thank you. The New Jersey Open Public Meeting Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed and acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the East Brunswick Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published at the Board of Education offices. Written notice was also provided to the Sentinel, the Newark Star Ledger, the Home News and Tribune, and the Municipal Clerk of East Brunswick. All Board of Education meetings, with the exception of executive session discussions, are videotaped for later broadcast. It is a policy of the board that videotape meetings are not edited for any purpose, and those speaking at the public meeting should be aware of these videotaping rules. Good evening. I first of all want to thank Mr. Giuliani for pulling together these meetings, and I hope you understand that I was getting text messages from people saying they can't unmute themselves. For instance, I think Dr. Valesky might be having a problem with that right now. But we are very grateful to you for organizing these meetings. You've done a terrific job. The thing I've been thinking about is that heroes were once thought of to wear capes and have superpowers, but like everything else in our world today, that has changed. And now our heroes are our first responders, our healthcare workers, all the essential workers. They are our heroes. Also, the wonderful staff and support staff who work so diligently with our students to facilitate the remote learning process. You guys are rock stars. And more than that, you are also our heroes. The students who are making the distance learning work with their dedication and commitment, despite all the sacrifices they are being asked to make every single day, you are also our heroes. And the parents, many of whom are working full-time besides facilitating and coordinating remote homeschooling, you are also our heroes. Amazing administrators who find a way to keep the staff motivated and inspired to reach into themselves and find strengths they never knew they had. You are our heroes too. And to the central office staff and Dr. Valesky, words cannot begin to acknowledge your generosity of time and spirit and your devotion to the district and its students. You are our heroes. And so we move into the superintendent's report.
Thank you, President Becker. Good evening, everyone. President Becker, you took some of my thunder already, but I'm going to read my script as I wrote it. Good evening. I'd like to start by thanking the families of East Brunswick. I know how challenging these past 4 weeks have been because of the tremendous shift in how we were forced to deliver instruction. Thank you for your partnership in this unprecedented journey. To the entire EB team and this Board of Education, none of this would have been possible without you. We executed a plan based on a vision that has been years in the making. We did it a lot faster than we ever imagined. Over the past couple of years, there's been a lot of talk in the educational sector about future ready. And I've come to understand this is what being ready for the future looks like, being flexible and adaptable. None of us anticipated this as our future, but we will continue to expand and refine our distance learning plan until we can safely return to schools again. And we will do it as a schools and community team. And speaking of return to schools, Governor Murphy announced today in his press briefing that schools will continue to remain closed through May 15th. As we receive updated information, we will share it with the community. Now it's time for some good news. Lucy Zhu, a senior at East Brunswick High School, is being recognized on tonight's agenda for being named one of the top 300 students in the 2020 Regeneron Science Talent Search. Lucy joins us tonight via Zoom. Lucy's entry resulted from a study she completed while a student at Stony Brook University's 2019 Summer Scholars Program. Lucy's research, together with a mentor from Stony Brook, is titled the computational development of a novel class of boronic acid-containing chalconoids and cis-restricted combratastatin 84 analogs for tumor vascular disruption. This project is important in combating cancer by reducing blood flow that feeds neoplastic growth. The top 300 Regeneron scholars and their high schools were awarded $2,000 each. And Lucy has been accepted at Massachusetts Institute of Technology and Princeton University, and she's weighing her options about where she will go. Congratulations, Lucy. The Child Nutrition Department has set up a grab-and-go pickup system in the parking lots of our 11 schools. Grab-and-go meals contain breakfast and lunch items and are available for eligible students. The East Brunswick Public Schools has provided over 11,000 meals since the start of this program 4 weeks ago. And I want to give a huge thank you to our child nutrition staff members, bus drivers, transportation department, school security officers, and our Aramark food service partners. And finally, for our families with changes to their financial situation, and we know there will be changes, please log on to Parent Access and complete a free and reduced meal application. The application can be found under the Forms tab. If you have any questions or do not have internet access, please call our Child Nutrition Office at 732-613-6718. Again, that number is 732-613-6718. Thank you, President Becker.
Thank you, Dr. Valesky. And now I believe we're going to have a budget update and discussion. Bernie?
Yes. So just give me a moment while we put up the PowerPoint. So this is for the school budget 2020-2021. This is the tentative budget update and revisions. So to begin with, we'll provide a little review here of our state aid. Going back to 2009, there had been a significant reduction in state aid over several years, and then a slow recovery in state aid to the level that we were originally at back in 2009. For fiscal year 2021, the state has advised us that we will be seeing an increase of state aid going to $22.2 million. Now, of course, that was the preliminary information that we received, and it was prior to COVID-19. So I'll be speaking a little bit more about that later in this presentation. In terms of estimated revenue, again, we are showing the state aid. We're showing the tax cap. We were originally proposing utilizing banked cap for two specific areas. That proposal has now been withdrawn through consensus with the board, and we can formalize that this evening. In terms of appropriations impacts, this is a history on mandated charter school payments and the impact that those charter school payments have had on the school district budget, beginning in 2010 with a large jump then in 2011, and then moving forward over the last several years to our obligation for next year's budget, which is at $3.2 million. There is no flexibility in this. It is required by law, and we must budget for this without exception. In terms of additional appropriations impacts, we have the effect of collective bargaining and contractual base salary commitments, which impact the budget nearly $3 million. I mentioned earlier the bank cap that will not be utilized, and a significant portion of that was dedicated to address K-5 enrollment in class size. And so by consensus of the board, we are withdrawing those recommendations, and the temporary classroom units at Irwin and Warnsdorf along with 9 teaching positions, salary and benefits are being withdrawn from the tentative budget. Health benefits are projected to increase 8.9%. We have not fully budgeted the 8.9%. We had been anticipating that increase would actually be mitigated in the next month or so prior to the adoption of a final budget. So our budget is actually at 6.7% of an increase, or $1.6 million. Out-of-district tuition is increasing approximately 15.2%. Of that increase, excuse me, of that increase, almost $255,000 is the result of additional costs since January 15th. So it's rather significant. And therapeutic counseling, that being a significant objective of the district, will be going up. Is budgeted at $350,000. We don't have a hard number on that yet. We have a request for proposals that has been issued, and we are awaiting the receipt of proposals, which will be next week sometime, and be able to assess the actual costs once we receive those proposals. But currently we have a placeholder in there for approximately $350,000. And the therapeutic counseling, for those that are not aware, is geared toward the social emotional wellness of our students. In addition, the tentative budget includes reductions required to achieve a balanced budget, pre-K instructional assistance, and in-class support resource instructional assistance. Our estimated revenue, based on the reduction in the bank's cap, has been adjusted. Our appropriations for those, for the removal of the temporary classroom units and the related staffing, has been adjusted. We currently do not have a balanced budget as a result, so we need to make some additional adjustments. And then below is the recap in terms of taxes. Again, bank's cap has been removed, so general tax increase on the general fund budget is 2.5, almost $2.6 million. And the tentative composite increase is 1.86. And when I say tentative composite increase, that is taking into consideration debt service, which is the payment on the mortgage, if you will. That is going down for next year. So the net result between general fund and the debt service is a 1.86% tax impact. Now, some additional impacts which are not yet reflected and we're continuing to analyze. We operate several enterprises, which are essentially business operations. And what I'm showing here are what our net income had been last year and what it is now projected to be through June. So in child nutrition, last year, we had a net profit of almost $126,000. At this time, we are projecting that we will have a net loss as of the end of June of almost $400,000. Now, these impacts are all as a result of COVID-19 and the closure of schools. Next, in our community programs area, last year for services provided, and this is for Early Learning Academy, for the before school program and the after school program and other enrichment programs, last year we had net income of over $833,000. We are projected to have a net income through June of $264,000. In facilities rentals, primarily the EB PAC or the JM PAC at Hammersholt School. Last year we had net revenue of $505,000. We are projecting at this time through June that will be only $195,000. All of these impact the general fund budget because these services, Save for Child Nutrition, community programs, and facilities rentals provide income that go to support the general fund budget. We will need to do an assessment to determine how this affects our revenue stream into the general fund for next year. Based on these projections, the original revenue levels that we were anticipating will not be met. And so additional reductions will likely be required to balance the budget. Now, additional impacts to be determined. State of New Jersey revenue and state aid to schools are certainly a major portion of what we budget for in terms of our revenues and associated appropriations. A bill, Senate Bill S2338, was signed into law earlier this week, on April 14th. It essentially changes the state's fiscal year for this year only, from ending on June 30th to ending September 30th. So the additional 3 months is geared toward the state recovering in some way on its revenue losses. The state treasurer, by this law, must prepare a report of the financial condition of the state no later than May 22nd. That report is to reflect on the current 2020 fiscal year and the 2021 fiscal year. That report will be posted on the state's website promptly, pursuant to the law. The governor will then revise his budget message for fiscal 2021. That revised budget message must be delivered by August 25th of 2020. That's literally a week before we get into the new year of school. What is unknown is what impact the treasurer's report and findings will have not only on the current year revenue stream of state aid, but next year's revenue stream. We will likely not have the information that we need to revisit the proposed budget until after the governor's budget message. So while there's no official word, I do believe that we will need to have a contingency plan to prepare and be ready for additional reductions that may come to us in the summer. And this will probably be late in the summer.
So Bernie, the deadline for us approving the budget.
There is no change. There is no change to the current deadline.
Okay.
We will continue with our budget process pursuant to the existing law. We have a public hearing on May 7th. So any changes we make to the budget within the constraints that we know of now must be done by May 7th. Final budget adoption will occur May 14th. And then after that, anything that comes from the treasurer's findings and the governor's new budget message in late August will remain to be seen. And just as a reminder for members of the public, the district's budget information is posted on the district website. Go to the quick links on the and click on user-friendly budget, and you'll find additional information there.
So Bernie, I just want to clarify something. In terms of the public hearing on May 7th and the final budget adoption on May 14th, we will be basing this on the current financial information we have. But yet what you are saying is that because of the fiscal year extension, the numbers may change after we finalize the budget.
I believe that will be the case. I
And
don't
will,
see I don't see how we will receive, or any district will receive, the level of state aid that it was notified of back in February. I just don't see that.
but will there be a mechanism, at least that you know of now?
To modify,
Yeah, we can't write anything in stone.
of course, and I'm
Okay.
sure when that time comes, when and if that time comes, the state will provide the guidance necessary to make modifications to the budget. But I
Thank
think
you.
we should, in the meantime, ready ourselves.
Okay, anybody from the board wishing to ask a question? I don't hear anybody. Is somebody on mute and wanting to ask a question? You could raise your hand or text me. If not, we will move on. Okay, thank you so much for that report. This brings us up to the good of the cause for the public. The video remote conference access. As a reminder, members of the public who wish to provide comment at this meeting may do so through Zoom, a remote video conferencing system. Free direct access is available by copying and pasting the URL you see on the screen into the web browser of your computer or mobile device and entering the meeting ID and password also on the screen now. Upon joining the meeting, your participation will automatically be muted to ensure there is no disruption to the business being conducted by the Board of Education. In order to be recognized, select the chat feature in Zoom, then enter and send your name to the meeting host. You will be recognized to speak when your name is called. Individuals will be invited to speak in the order in which we have received your request. The Board of Education recognizes the value of public comment on educational issues and the importance of allowing members of the public to express themselves on school matters of community interest. In order to permit the fair and orderly expression of such comment, the board shall provide a period for public comment at every meeting, where a participant will be limited to 3 minutes duration. Is there anyone from the public wishing to address the board? Bernie, can you confirm for me that there's nobody in queue?
I can confirm.
Okay, seeing none, I close the public portion. Moving on to our agenda tonight, I'd like a motion to combine items 1 and 2 on the Board of Education agenda.
Mark, so
So
moved.
moved.
I'm sorry.
That was
So moved.
Okay, we'll say Mark,
it
so
was Mr.
moved.
Simmons and Mr. Sismar.
Okay, I don't have Todd on my screen at all, sorry. Mr. Simmons and Mr. Sismar. Any discussion? Will the secretary please call the roll?
Mrs. Chu? Mrs. Chu is giving a thumbs up. Mrs. Chu is having difficulty with her, there we go.
Yeah, no, you had to give me control to unmute. I abstain from item 1 and yes for item 2.
Mr. Winston is unable to unmute
He's unmuted.
Bernie,
He is unmuted.
and he's saying he isn't.
No? There we go.
Okay, if you wouldn't call the roll, please, thank you.
Okay,
Continue.
so we had Mrs. Chu, Mr. Sismar,
Yes.
Mrs. Was,
Yes.
Mr. Hong,
Yes.
Mrs. Lax,
Yes.
Mrs. Reese, Mrs. Reese?
I believe she left the meeting earlier.
No, she's here. She gave a thumbs up.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes.
Mr. Winston?
Yes.
And President Becker?
Yes, motion carried. Can I please have a motion for item 1 on our community programs
So moved.
agenda?
So
Move.
moved.
Moved by Mr. Sismar, seconded by Mr. Hong. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Moving on to our facility agenda. Can I please have a motion to combine items 1 through 4?
So moved.
Moved by Mark,
Second.
second by Li Wu. Is there any discussion? Secretary, please call the roll and be aware that Mrs. Chu is saying she cannot unmute. Nor can Jeff.
Yes.
Mrs. Becker, if I might, Mrs. Becker, could I just help folks technologically for a second?
Please do.
Yes, if you remute yourself, Bernie has to unmute you every time. So if you just keep yourself unmuted and just keep the noise down, you won't have to have that problem. But once you remute yourself, Bernie has to unmute you.
I was under the impression that was given to me last meeting.
Okay.
And everyone has been unmuted at this time. All board members have been unmuted at this time.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
It's a work in progress. I think we're doing great.
It certainly
Okay,
is.
so
You're doing great. Yeah.
I believe it was
Ready
Mark
for the roll
had
call?
motion and second, we're up to roll call.
Yes. Mrs. Chu?
Yes.
Mr. Sismar?
Yes.
Mrs. Guas?
Yes.
Mr. Hong?
Yes.
Mrs. Lax?
Yes.
Mrs. Reese?
Yes.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes.
Mr. Winston?
Yes.
President Becker?
Yes, motion carries. Can I please have a motion for this evening's financial services agenda items 1 through 12?
So moved. Jeff.
Moved by Jeff, second by Mark. Is there any discussion? Will the secretary please call the roll?
Mrs. Chu?
Yes.
Mr. Sismar?
Yes.
Mrs. Guas?
Yes.
Mr. Hong?
Yes.
Mrs. Lax?
Yes.
Mrs. Reese?
Yes.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes.
Mr. Winston?
Yes.
President Becker?
Yes, motion carries. Can I please have a motion for this evening's human resource agenda items 1 and 2?
So moved. Jeff.
Moved by Jeff,
Second.
second by Mark.
Second, Todd.
Second by Mark Todd. Is there any discussion? Will the secretary please call the roll?
Mrs. Chu?
Yes.
Mr. Sismar?
Yes.
Mrs. Guas?
Yes.
Mr. Hong?
Yes.
Mrs. Lax?
Yes.
Mrs. Reese?
Yes.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes.
Mr. Winston?
Yes.
President Becker?
Yes, motion carries. Can I please have a motion for this evening's student services agenda, 1 item?
So moved.
Motion by Mark,
Second, Susanna.
second Susanna. Is there any discussion? Will the secretary please call the roll?
Mrs. Chu?
Yes.
Mr. Sismar?
Yes.
Mrs. Guas?
Yes.
Mr. Hong?
Yes.
Mrs. Lax?
Yes.
Mrs. Reese?
Yes.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes.
Mr. Winston?
Yes.
President Becker?
Yes, motion carries. And now committee reports, information items, and for the good of the cause from the board. And I see our board secretary has listed several suggestions for committee reports. Anyone wishing to give a committee report, information item, or good of the cause from the board?
Well, for Finance Committee, there were several meetings, as noted on the agenda. And, we received an update from Mr. Juliana. I want to thank the Finance Department, the entire administrative staff for all the hard work. We're just going to have to remain on our toes, and there's a lot of change going to be coming up. So, thank you for your work.
Any other committee reports, information items, good of the cause from the board? Going once, going twice, okay. We do have a need for a closed session, whereas the Board of Education must discuss matters which are not appropriate for discussion in a public meeting, and whereas these items are those listed in tonight's agenda. The length of the closed session is estimated to be 45 minutes, after which the public meeting of the board shall reconvene and action will not be taken. Can I please have a motion?
So moved, Jeff.
Moved by Jeff, second by Mark. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. We are in closed session. We're going to take a brief 5-minute recess for us all to leave this meeting and log into the closed session. Good night, everyone, and stay safe.